Welcome to my podcast, Hey Dancer. I'm your host, Miller DeRay, and I'm a dancer. But guess what? Like you, I'm much more than the thing that defines me in whatever moment. I have so much life experience, as do you. And one of the things for me is I've been studying and researching and looking into spirituality and self-development literally since my early 20s, arguably for over 30 years. And I feel like I have a lot to share and teach that maybe isn't just about dance. However, because this is a dance podcast, I'm thinking of ways I can correlate whatever it is that I feel like I've got a decent grasp on and twist it and shape it into something that is helpful for dancers. Now, as someone who is, I feel, very familiar with and sometimes intimately so with the world of influencers and entrepreneurs and self-development people, I see a lot of quote unquote teachers who don't really practice what it is they're telling the world. Now, the interesting conversation, and perhaps it's for another time, is does it matter? If their message is of use and really helping people, then, maybe it's a good thing. For me, I would feel, to be frank, disingenuous and fraudulent if I shared with you things that I think sound good, but I'm not actually applying them in my own life. Like, I don't have a good grasp on them already. Like, I would never do a podcast about how to retain choreography at this time. This may change in 6 months. But right now, for me, picking up choreo is still a struggle. I can share with you what I've heard, are good tips and tricks for picking up choreo. And to be frank, I do have a couple myself, but I'm not going to share that, until I really feel I have a strong hold on that. So today's topic is one that would be, I think, considered in the realm of self-help, self-development, and it's relatively new and recent in my life, and I feel like it's really already changed my life. And I could share a couple things about it in the hope that it helps you too. And again, I'll gear it toward dancers as the podcast progresses. Before that, though, I really appreciate you being here. And if you took just a moment to rate and review the podcast, follow, subscribe, like, share, comment wherever you're watching or listening, it goes a long way. It touches my heart. And thank you for that in advance. Okay. Let's get to it. So sometime in the not so distant past, I was at my acupuncturist's office, and she's amazing because she's not just a great practitioner at her craft. She really sits with you, and we have all these amazing conversations just one-on-one, about the unconscious mind and the mind-body connection with pain and the universe, all this stuff. And one of the times I opened up to her and I said something very revealing. Just as an example, I might be walking around the grocery store and I realize all of a sudden I don't feel pain in my leg, the symptoms. And then I'll be so excited. And then a moment later, I feel myself all of a sudden kind of shutting down. Like, no, I'm not ready to feel good yet in my leg. And by extension of that, I'm not ready to be dancing yet. All I want with my conscious mind is to be healed and to be dancing. But something down deep is something holding on to my pain because there's other fear I'm not aware of. It's just, again, the more you grow and the more you become aware, this stuff it's really mind-blowing. And she was very taken with what I was just mentioning to you. And then she mentioned something called the upper limit problem. And she couldn't remember where it came from, but basically described it as it's how we subconsciously hold ourselves back from success and joy because of deep-rooted fears or self-imposed limits. And of course, in my usual fashion, I came home and I looked it up right away. Oh my God, the upper limit problem. What is this? Where does it come from? And I learned that it comes from a book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. I bought the book immediately, the Audible, and I listened to it. And let me tell you, so much of it hit home. Today, I want to talk about something that completely changed how I look at time. Einstein time is what he calls it. So as I'm sure you know, he got it from Albert Einstein and his theory of relativity because it really changed how we understand time. Not as a fixed, rigid thing, but as something flexible, influenced by speed and perspective. So Gay Hendricks, in his brilliant self, took this amazing, brilliant idea and applied it to everyday life, showing that time isn't something we run out of. It's something we create. And he has endless examples in the book, of the people who are the most successful with regards to family life and business life and just how they talk about time, and they get all the things done, and time just always is on their side. It's in their corner, and it's because of the way they think about it and reframe it, and it never was a thing that they felt victim to. So let's break it down. Most of us think of time as this fixed thing. There are 24 hours in a day, 60 minutes in an hour, and I can break it down into the seconds too, but I won't. We think time is something that is outside of us, something we're constantly chasing, trying to manage, trying to find, but that's actually not how time works. According to Gay Hendricks, Einstein Time is this idea that time is something you create, not something you're a victim of. That's an important word there, because I feel like I used to be this person, and I hear a lot of people in my life always talking about time in the sense that they're a victim of it. Time isn't a force that's outside of you controlling your life. You are time. I know that sounds corny, but think about it. Haven't you ever had a moment where time seemed to stretch, like maybe you were in the zone? You dancers know this so well, grooving in your living room, dancing in a cypher, dancing in class, dancing on stage, whatever it is. And you're so absorbed in the dancing, and suddenly hours have flown by and you're so confused because it felt like just a couple of minutes. Or on the flip side of that, maybe you were waiting for your turn at an audition, staring at the clock, and those 5 minutes felt like forever. That's Einstein time in action. Time expands or contracts based on your focus, energy, and mindset. So when you feel rushed or say things like, I don't have enough time, which I feel like everybody says, you're reinforcing the belief that time is something outside of your control. But when you stop seeing time as the enemy, when you actually step into the mindset that you create time, you start to experience time differently. Okay, before we get into dancers specifically, I have more to say on this. So something that, I gotta be frank, can I be honest about this? It really gets under my skin, is how so many people talk about time. Everybody today is obsessed with saying, I'm so busy. And not just today. Honestly, it's been going on for years. I remember even reading, I don't know, like in 2015, a long time ago now, in Jen Sincero's book, You Are a Badass, I'm busy is the new I'm fine when people ask, how are you? How you doing? I'm busy. It's the go-to line for so many people. I'm so busy. I mean, I don't know about you, but it feels to me like when people say this, it's like they think it's some kind of badge of honor or something. Like if you're not busy, you must not be important. But here's the truth. Nobody is actually too busy for anything. It's really all about one word, priority. Think about what you're actually saying. When you're saying, I'm so busy, I'm too busy, oh my God, I can't do that, I'm so busy, you're literally making yourself a victim of time. You're reinforcing the belief that time is this thing happening to you instead of something you control. Now, obviously, we all have responsibilities, but instead of saying, I don't have time, try reframing it as saying maybe something like, you know what, that's not a priority for me right now, because that's the ultimate truth. And if that makes you feel uncomfortable, good. It means you're realizing that how you talk about time is how you experience time. When you start changing how you speak about it, you start feeling like you have more of it. And this has been a huge revelation to me. He talks so much in this book about that, about just your thoughts on time, what you're saying out loud, and you're going to manifest more of that. And I no longer say, I do not say I don't have the time. I do not say I'm too busy for whatever. I choose my words very, very carefully. Now, I'm not going to lie and tell you that I have such an amazing grasp of this that I never feel anxiety ridden because, I have all the time in the world. But the truth is the more you apply this concept and reframe the way you think and talk about time, all of a sudden, so much more time is at your disposal. The busiest people, CEOs, entrepreneurs, single parents, with full-time jobs, people with schedules where, they get up at 5 a.m. and they're working till 8 p.m. and you look at their calendar and you're like, oh my God, like every freaking minute is booked. They don't just magically have more hours in the day. What they do have is a different relationship with time. Now, hopefully they have balance in their life. This is key. There are a lot of people out there who teach about balance and they teach about goal setting or whatever, but the truth is they don't actually have much balance in their own lives. I am trying to bring the perspective of those who have really full calendars, but they also have balance in their life. They're prioritizing family time just as much as career time. Again, for just the sake of full disclosure here, there are some times I wake up very early, by 5 a.m. most days. And sometimes I'll be up, like this morning, I was up at 4:55 because I knew that I wanted to record this podcast and I wanted to do a little dance from home and just so many things in my day. And even though my PT exercises were done and my dance was done and breakfast was done and all the things, by 7:30 in the freaking morning, I had a moment where I was like, oh my God, I didn't think the thought and I didn't say anything out loud, but my heart started to race because I felt like, do I have enough time today? So I'm not telling you this in the sense that I've arrived and I've mastered this, but I'm way, way better and I've seen the change in my life. And if you follow me online, then you might probably correctly assume that I'm somebody who's producing a lot of content twice a day on Instagram, every single day. 2 podcasts a week and a docuseries episode I'm shooting for once a month. Doesn't always happen. My point is, I'm a one-man team and I'm getting all these things done by myself. That's because of my relationship now with time, how I think about it, how I talk about it, how I reframe it in my mind. And now let's bring it to dancers. I'll try and make this very digestible, and it is. It's very casual and it's very easy to understand. So I'll begin with young dancers from, kids to high school to college. I think this really all applies. If you're balancing all the things, homework, school, classes, dance classes, rehearsals, maybe even competitions, I know it can feel impossible to find the time for all the things. But when you start practicing Einstein Time, you'll notice something. When you're truly present in your dancing, when you stop worrying about all the other things you have to do, you feel like you have more time. And this actually makes you better at dance because you're no longer rushing or frantic. So here's a practical tip. Stop looking at the clock when you're training. Instead of counting down the minutes, be fully present in class. You'll notice when you're in the moment and you're ignoring, all the things you have to do and feeling like there isn't the time to do it, all of a sudden time just opens up. It is so cool to experience. Okay, now my dancers who are trying to work in the industry, probably in your 20s and 30s, and hopefully, a lot older like myself, 50, 60 and beyond. You're trying to get booked, or you're teaching or you're auditioning. Einstein Time is a game changer. Most working dancers juggle multiple gigs, full life, part-time jobs, all the things. But instead of feeling like you're racing against time, shift your mindset. You are time. When you step into a studio, when you prep for an audition, when you rehearse, decide that you have all the time you need. The more you believe it, the more relaxed and effective you'll be. And ironically, the more successful you'll be too. Okay, now to the older dancers. I put that in quotes because I'm not even sure if I'm an older dancer, what that even means. I guess the black and white of it is I am an older dancer, so maybe any dancer who's 40 and older. One of the biggest struggles could feel like time has passed you by. Maybe like me, you stepped away from dance for years and now you're feeling like you're behind, or maybe you have a family and a job and other commitments and it just feels like dance is this thing that you want to do so badly but you don't have time for. Here's where Einstein Time can completely change your experience. You don't find time for dance, you create it. When you tell yourself, I'm too busy, you'll never have the time. You know those people, they always make excuses. Don't be that person. If you want something, make it a priority and get it done. Be in dance class. When you say, I have all the time I need for dance, suddenly, guess what? A class fits into your schedule. A practice session happens. A rehearsal flows instead of feeling rushed. At the end of the day, or at the end of a podcast, this is what I want you to take away. Okay, I'm going to be stern about this. You create time. If you constantly tell yourself you don't have enough of it, time will always feel like it's slipping away. But if you shift your mindset, if you start believing that time is something you own, that it's something within you, your entire experience of time changes. And for dancers, that's everything, because the more we stop fighting against time, the more we can actually be in the moment, and that's where the best dancing happens. Just a couple of addendums here, just from like personal anecdotes. The people in my life over the years who always told me they were so busy, in my opinion, were the least busy people I know. I always, because I knew their life pretty well, or the way at least they talked about their life, and I would think, my God, I've got XYZ examples of you literally having all the time in the world, but then you tell me you can't do ABC because you're so busy, you're so busy, you're so busy. Yeah. And obviously it goes without saying that we all have different seasons in our life. And some of those seasons, for example, maybe you're a new parent, or you're working a new job and you got to prove yourself to the new boss and you're putting in crazy hours. I mean, I fully recognize that there are always going to be times that are objectively busier than other times. At the end of the day, though, it's still about how are you thinking about your time at such time? How are you talking about it? How are you framing it to others and to yourself, to your family? And ultimately, I do think it still comes down to, priorities. Why are there single moms out there who get XYZ done, and other single moms out there with a similar schedule barely get X done? Ultimately, it is about your will, and it is about what is a priority to you, what is important to you, and about showing up to your life, taking all the things into account. But again, I don't want this podcast to come off invariably, because there will be some people who will say, oh my God, no, but I really don't have the time. I mean, I don't know your life, and if that's true for you, that is true for you. I'm just asking that maybe you could still look a little bit deeper and see maybe what you are prioritizing, because you may surprise yourself. And at the very least, just don't use that language. Don't say you're so busy. Don't say you don't have time. Catch yourself. That is what has been so, for me, monumental about this particular concept, is I immediately applied it and I began to catch myself in the way I was talking about time. How was I, talking about it with my partner, to my friends, to my family? And I became very cognizant of it, of really just never speaking of time. Even if I felt like, even if my soul was like, you don't have the time today, I didn't say that. I chose different ways to communicate that. And I think, again, once you start doing that, then the blocks start to form and the universe is listening, and all of a sudden more time appears. It becomes like magic, and the more you practice how you're talking and thinking of time, the more and more and more you begin to believe that this is what time is for you now. It's so cool. So if this episode made you think differently about time, you gotta let me know, okay? Do me a favor. DM me on Instagram at BackToGreat. Leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify. Leave it in your review on Apple. That would be amazing. It goes so far. It just it really touches my heart. All right, until next time. Remember, don't forget, you are time. And I promise you, oh my God, the way even my partner has noticed this too about me. I don't talk about time anymore. I don't say, I don't have time to do this. I choose other ways to reframe it. I'm like, I feel like I'm not prioritizing my time correctly, because I know that time is abundant. I know that it is there and that I could easily get the things done, but I am struggling a little bit with prioritizing my schedule or budgeting my time. I'll just put it in a way where it's not like I'm a victim of time. I'm the problem if I can't figure it out, Time is not the problem. I'm the problem. Does that make sense? All right.